what happens when you take a castle that has been Vania'd away from certain people and give it back into the hands of a certain other person?
A video game.
Fair. I was going to say their hands become bloodstained.
Oh, snap. That's a much better response than mine.
Pew, pew.
Good job, buddy.
Glad I did something good. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Season Lamb Checkup OVA. It's episode 135.
Oof.
That's a lot.
So many.
I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc Al and Ladium.
Hello.
And this is a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. And we're going to talk about a recently released video game this week.
Mm-hmm.
And by recently released, I mean I guess only a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
For some reason, I feel like this game came out like a month ago.
That's because you played it before anybody else.
No. That's actually not true.
Oh, man.
I got a code the day that the game came out.
Okay.
Or like backers got the code, so because they didn't send review codes of this early because this game came in hot.
Hot.
Because they're like, oh god, we have to patch this really quickly. Oh god, do all this stuff. We're talking about Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night.
We are.
One of the famed Kickstarter games that we probably talked about on our Kickstarter episode like 2 years ago.
Oh, I'm sure we did. I don't understand why we wouldn't.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It was.
We have a situation.
Oh
Hold
no.
on. It's okay, buddy. We're good. He got caught in my in the cord for my headset and wasn't sure how to get out of it.
I mean, at least he didn't like yank.
He didn't yank it, but he was panicking, so I had to.
Oh no.
So I had to replace it, like pick him up and put him somewhere else so he would stop kicking at the cord.
Max is having a rough day.
He's
having a real rough day.
He's having such a bad day.
He really is. Poor dude.
I know.
So Bloodstained, like we said, one of the biggest Kickstarter backed games. At one point was the highest grossing Kickstarter backed game until I think Shenmue 3 came along and usurped it. But after they did their whole campaign, crowdfunding campaign, they ended up with about $5.5 million from backers, which I believe is on top of money they received from like unknown, or not unknown, but anonymous funders themselves that were outside of the crowdfunding campaign. So it's not like they came into this with like no money. They had money coming into this, and they're like, we can make some more money.
What if we asked for more monies? What could we do then?
What if we hopped on this bandwagon of, hey, people like these old games. What if we asked them to give us money to make another one? Which of course we have seen, since then. The Bloodstained Kickstarter started in 2015. Since that time frame, when other major Kickstarters were happening in the video game scene, a lot of those that raised a big amount of money, had a lot of popularity or word of mouth going around, kind of didn't, meet expectations, let's say. So there was a lot of, trepidation going into this game in particular because, it was another one of the big Kickstarters. And, with how everything has gone thus far, people were like, well, is this going to just be another, hey, this looked really cool, but turns out to be a big flop like the other ones had so far? Or is, can this buck the trend? Can this break the Kickstarter curse?
Look at you, ukulele.
Among others.
That one's just terrible.
Yeah. There was a lot of things that were, pretty questionable even before release. Like there was a trailer that hit before release where they're like, hey, we redid all of the artwork basically to make this look better because everyone was complaining about it.
Yeah.
And you look at that and you're like, that doesn't seem good.
Nope.
Big yikes. And like I said, like this game came in very hot to where like they didn't send out review codes prior to launch, which they were even saying like we don't want this to make it seem like, oh, we don't believe in this game and we think the game's gonna be bad. It's literally we have to put this patch out and work on this, and it's gonna come out the day of release essentially. So that's why we can't send out codes. And even then, like there was an issue like very early on where like they had to send out like another press release like saying, hey, if you started playing on this version patch, like you need to start over because the patch we just released will basically break the game if you've started on the previous patch. So there was a lot of this, like I said, this game came in very hot. But outside of that, they did put out a fully fledged game.
They did?
They did. It runs, kind of, on some platforms, some better than others.
Yeah.
Which we will be able to talk about because I played on one version and you played on another version. So
correct.
You played on perhaps the more infamous version of the game so far.
I did. But I got to play it from my bed.
It's true. It's pretty good. But yeah, Bloodstained is out there. It is playable. It is all that. You can read my review on Crunchyroll. It's on there somewhere. But yeah, if you go into this, like you're probably gonna have the preconceived notions of, this is a Koji Igarashi joint. He, of course, is the guy behind, or one of the people behind Symphony of the Night. Basically, kind of pushed that Metroidvania genre forward and put it way into motion as he kind of took over the Castlevania department and made a lot of those types of games. And he's making another one of those types of games. So if you kind of follow the development of this game, you will definitely know that. And this is one of those types of games. Like immediately from the outset, that like you begin playing, like you basically have that feel. You're like, oh, this is definitely Symphony of the Night again.
Yeah, it's very clear it's Symphony of the Night again. Mm-hmm. With a lady this time.
True, with a lady this time.
They should have just titled it that, Symphony of the Night again, but with a lady this time. What a good title.
See, this is why you should be in marketing.
It's true. I mean, people would buy that because they're like, oh, well, now I'm curious. And also, like, I know what I'm getting into.
But yeah, like when I first started playing it, like just moving around, jumping around, weapon attacks and all that, I was like, this is very much that game, which I didn't play until literally this year, so I don't have like the huge nostalgia for it that a lot of other people do. But even then, it's like I could immediately tell, like, oh yeah, this is definitely invoking Symphony of the Night, which works, I think, especially considering you're driving for that market. For that audience, and you want them to be like immediately play it, get it in their hands, and be like, oh hey, it's Symphony of the Night. This is exactly what I wanted. And I think that first impression you get is definitely that, which you get that feel throughout the entirety of the game, but like I don't think that it necessarily like relies on strictly nostalgia to get you through everything else, because there's a lot of different ways that they basically take that formula and modernize it for a game that comes out in 2019, which is smart, A, and B, basically what you would have to do. And I think it's kind of something that like the other, retro games that were crowdfunded kind of perhaps lacked.
Missed the mark on.
Yeah, that like, you can make another game like that, but also like it's smart to implement some modern elements to it, which, even this game kind of does that, or doesn't do that all the way through. Like there are still some faults here and there. Like, there's the save system is very reminiscent of Symphony of the Night, where you have to find save rooms and all that. There is no auto saving or anything like that. So if you forget about that, or you're more attuned to auto saves and saving being kind of like a crutch for you, that it'll back you up whenever. Like this doesn't do that. Like this is very much a game that relies more like what happened 20 years ago.
If you play a version that likes to crash.
That too,
and
which
you
is
can't
very
find a safe
unfortunate.
Room, then you lose 2 hours of progress.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why autosave is good.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you played the Switch version.
Mm-hmm.
I played the PS4 version, which wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination either. Like, there were definitely times where the frame rate kind of dipped a little bit, so there were performance issues even with the PS4 version. But the Switch version has been the one that's got a lot of the criticism from this game, specifically because of it being even worse in terms of performance with how it runs on the Switch. And even from your experience, like, you had a lot of crash issues and all that sort of stuff that the team behind it has basically been like, hey, we need to prioritize fixing the Switch version specifically. Like, that is a thing we have to do because so many people are talking about how bad this version is.
Yeah.
Um,
Can
but
confirm.
yeah, you definitely played through it and you would know.
Which honestly, like, the frame rate issues, it happened every once in a while, but it wasn't as bad as the actual crashing was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that irritated me more. And like the skin texture was just weird. They
Yeah.
looked kind of corpsey.
Yeah. I think I may have had a crash once. I don't remember per se, but I didn't have nearly the amount that you did. You had like multiple crashes.
It was like at least 5.
Yeah, which is not good.
No. Like, that's kind of like Secret of Mana level of
Yeah.
crashing.
So I guess like the pro tip to come out of this is that, if you want to pick this game up, which it is pricey for a game that like this, it is $40 retail, which I think you can probably find it on sale. It was on sale a lot, even coming out like the release week for when it came out.
Yeah, I got it for $32.
But if you're going to pick the game up, you probably want to avoid the Switch version. You probably want to pick it up on PS4, Xbox One, or PC.
Unless you were determined, like I am, to play from your bed.
Or if you just want to wait for them to fix that Switch version, maybe that would be the better call, and then it would probably be cheaper as well.
That's a smart idea.
Yeah, but if you want to play it now, like, you would definitely want to avoid the Switch version.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because, like you said, the portability factor that's there is really good and handy. Like, that's how I played Symphony of the Night, was on the Vita, and it was fun doing it that way. But I don't think the issues that game has really, outweighs the ability to have portability whenever. But let's talk about the game proper.
Ben Diskin's in it.
Yes, there's a wild English dubcast that's in this game.
I'm just saying that, like, I made an announcement to you a few weeks ago that it's essentially at this point that I just buy anything that Ben Diskin's in. And then I bought this and I was like, oh, hey, Ben Diskin's in it. Confirmed. Even though I didn't know. Hey, I didn't know that he was in it when I bought it.
Now you know.
Now I know. And that was great. Like, I kept going to talk to, like, Johannes because I was like, hey, Ben Diskin, what up? Anyway. Plot.
Yeah, the English voice cast is really good. They had some interesting stretch goals that they provided for the English dubcast. Like, one of them was like getting David Hayter to be in the game, specifically just to get at Kojima and Konami and all that, which he does a really good job in this game.
He really does.
As Zangetsu, the samurai. Apparently, he was originally going to be a Jeeble.
Really?
Which would have been weird. I think they went with the right decision here.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I kept wanting to call him Gebel. Every time I saw his name, I was like, Gebel. Wait, Jeeble.
Yes, good old Gebel.
Gebel.
They also had another one that they put in Robert Belgard, the voice of Alucard from Symphony of the Night, in the game as well. Mm-hmm. So like they're just like, hey, let's do some funky things with the stretch goals of this, obviously, because that's what Kickstarter games do. But it's a good dubcast. Like, there isn't necessarily a ton of voice acting. Like, there are cutscenes here and there, but a lot of the game is just going to be you roaming around this castle and everything. But for what is there, it's fairly good.
It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, I would just go like chat with Ben Diskin. He would ask me if I've eaten properly. Maybe that's what I should do is set up an alarm that has been discing asking me if I've eaten properly, and then I'd remember to eat.
I mean, maybe.
Maybe. Okay, yeah, you're right. Probably not.
um, but like we said, we've mentioned a lot so far. Like this is very much it's Symphony of the Night. There's a ton of different variety in terms of like how you want to approach playing the game in terms of just weapon variety.
Hmm.
Specifically, like there are so many just different weapon types that you can acquire and try out. Like there's like daggers, there are short swords, regular swords, broadswords, long swords, spears, um,
Flying swords,
flying swords. There's a whip, because of
boots.
course, yeah, you can just like kick people, which is really good. Just a bunch of different stuff that if you want to test out and figure out exactly like what is going to be more beneficial towards your playstyle, you can totally go that route and just try everything out. I think the big difference between this and Symphony is that like is the shard
The
system
shard system.
that the game has, where basically every enemy in the game can drop a shard, which gives you like a different ability based off of the specific enemy,
Hmm.
and those shards are also like kind of split off into like different things that to do. So like some of them will just be kind of pretty basic abilities that you'll be able to do. Um,
Some are important for the story.
right. Others will like you'll acquire along the way that will basically unlock specific things that you'll be able to get to different parts of the castle that you would normally not be able to. Some allow you to summon familiars, which was something in Symphony of the Night, but they kind of basically expand upon it more here. There's like a wide variety more of those. There's like passive shards as well that will kind of like give you a buff or something that will be beneficial towards you. But yeah, like a lot of or basically all of the enemies in the game will drop something, and you can kind of farm those out if you wanted to get very much into it. And I think that also kind of like expands upon how you want to play the game, because you have all the weapon choices you have, but also all of the shard choices kind of make it so you have a huge variety of just different styles or techniques that you want to implement into how you want to play the game.
I had a sweet shard that I used all the time that was called Welcome Company. And it was just portraits of people that would rotate around you and shield you, but also attack. And I had them like super powered up and had so many picture frames that floated around me.
It's real
It was
good.
awesome. Welcome Company is best shard.
I mostly like use the weird tentacle you get from like beating the first boss, because it was like do a bunch of damage to bosses particularly. And then
Yeah.
by the end of the game, I got into using like the water jet, which I would just like spam at bosses because it just does a ton of damage if you just sit there and let it. Um, so yeah, like that was basically my strategy. Just however I can just cheaply get damage, I will do it. Um,
And then you get familiars as a shard,
mhm.
which that was cool. There's like a fairy one and a knight one and the little like Medusa head type things. Um,
There's a lot of those you get. I used the night dude a lot just because he would come in and just poke people, like poke, 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 poke. And he was
um,
very useful.
yeah, I ended up sticking with him by the end of it because he did a lot of dirty damage.
Yeah, exactly. That was the one big thing there.
Um, so yeah, I did do a lot of shard farming in this, and that got annoying, especially after you farmed for a couple hours and then finally got it, and then the game crashed. But I did do a lot of shard farming, so I had a pretty decent percentage of them all. But at the same time, I used like maybe
A
2%.
handful, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, cool. You do like nothing. Cool. All right. Glad I just farmed you for 3 hours.
Yeah, I don't think I ever really got into it as deeply as you did, mostly just because I was just getting through the game, and the only times I really had to was when like the game kind of forces you to where like,
Mhm.
oh, you need to get, if you want to get into like this area, you have to have this specific shard, which of course the game kind of is iffy on sometimes telling you when you need that or not, which can be a little bit bothersome. But if you are the type of person who wants to like go full completionist and all that, like you're gonna have to do a bit of farming, I guess, is the thing in order to get all the shards, because there are a ton of them.
Yep.
Guess let's talk about the story a bit.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's talk about the story a bit. You begin on a boat.
I'm on a boat.
You're on a tiny little boat.
It's not that tiny.
It's a tiny little boat.
It's not that tiny.
It's not really. It's a pretty big boat, but it is kind of like the starting area until you eventually move on to the castle. You meet Miriam.
There's a castle?
Yeah, it's just shocking. I know. You meet Miriam, who's the character you play as, and basically you learn how she can have all these shards from enemies and all that sort of stuff, and there's not a lot of people who are able to do that. They learned that their old pal Jeeble is doing some bad stuff.
Gee, Jeeble, what are you doing?
God. And you basically have to find him and confront him and all that. You are accompanied by Johannes. And Johannes.
They
and
pronounce
Dominique.
the J.
Johannes.
God.
Dominique, and basically those two are going to be they help you out throughout the rest of the game. You're able to set up.
He's an alchemist, and he helps you cook.
Yep. You set up shop in this little house that is like on the outskirts of this castle that pops up. The castle is a demon castle, of course. Everyone's like,
and so many people died.
Mm-hmm. Dominique is like a member of the church, essentially.
Like a nun type thing.
Yeah. So she sells you stuff, and both of them will just pop up through the castle, whenever the cutscene demands it.
Yeah, they just show up and they're like, "How'd you even get here? This is really far in this castle." There's also a small girl named Anne, who has like the wildest accent.
Yeah, there's a couple of people who will just like randomly show up at the house or like the surrounding areas that will like become quest givers, essentially.
Oh, like that murderous lady.
Yeah, there's a lady who's just like, hey, go kill a bunch of demons and
kill them all, those murderers.
And avenge all these random people. There's an old lady who just wants to eat food.
But she can't remember what the food is, so you have to help her out. There's a lady who wants to bury all the people.
Yep. There's a dude who just grows crops. That's his job. And yeah, they'll basically all help you. You can do a bunch of quests, and you'll get items and all that sort of stuff. Which is pretty cool because there's a lot of different quests you're able to undertake. And some of the quests are very referential, let's say, toward other games in this genre.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you eventually have to go to a castle. It is a very weirdly designed castle.
Yeah, the architect of this, wild.
It's very wild. That whole thing basically plays out as you would expect. You find a wide variety of different areas to explore. They are all full of secrets and everything where you'll look at something like, oh, I can't get there, and then you'll come back like 5 hours later and be like, oh, now I have this ability and I'm able to traverse up there.
I was so happy
Fun
when I got
stuff
double
like that.
Jump.
Oh yeah, double jump is great.
So good.
I literally did a fist bump when I unlocked double jump. I was like, yes, finally.
She gets like these cute little like rainbow wings on her back when you double jump.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty rad.
And there's a bunch of different like abilities you'll be able to unlock throughout the game itself, where it'll help with like traversion. There's one where you can kind of like shoot out a beam of light and just and get through like tight corridors that way.
Yep.
There is they kind of get around the whole idea of the inverted castle by just giving you an ability called inversion, which just turns everything upside down.
Yep. There's one that you can absorb blood.
Yep. Which is useful for like one area.
I mean, apparently it's also useful, like you can use it for healing, but I never did.
Yeah. You can phase through walls.
Yeah.
Which is a very late game ability, but that is a thing you can do as well.
Which, speaking of that blood, Can we talk about the fact that there's just like this fountain just full of blood and overflowing with it? Like, what an aesthetic choice, man.
I mean, the game is called Bloodstained for a reason.
It's just a fountain of blood.
Fountain of blood.
It's crazy.
Just chilling. So yeah, eventually you meet an old dude. His name is Alfred.
Mm-hmm.
He was also in the alchemy guild. He was a mentor to Johannes.
Johannes's
He
mentor.
seems super sketchy.
He does seem sketchy.
Everyone's like, that dude's super sketchy.
He wants a book.
He wants a book.
He's real into this book, and he needs to stop
Jeeble.
Jeeble from getting it.
Yes. You also meet Zangetsu, who is the samurai that Dominique knows. You get to fight him a couple of times, and he's just very like untrustworthy. He's like, you have bad powers. I have to kill you.
Yep. And we're like, hey, can we talk about this? Nope. I have to kill you, man. Lady.
So eventually, you'll fight all of them. Fight a bunch of bosses.
There are some that are creative though. Like I was super mad because I kept dying to her, but like the blood one was really cool.
It's interesting because like you would kind of expect, considering how much the game evokes Symphony of the Night and Castlevania in general, that it would fall on like the easy, oh well, we can just use those types of bosses.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, here's Frankenstein, here's the Mummy, like all that sort of stuff that has been used to death in Castlevania games. And really all of the bosses in here are kind of like are more unique and not really just those same tropes that you have become accustomed to from Castlevania.
Well, that lady, what I liked about her is that for one, she fights with like a red parasol. But as you do damage to her, like her outfit changes. It's kind of like a Bayonetta situation with like her outfit is made of blood. So as you attack her and more blood like goes on the floor as opposed to on her like dress changes styles. And like that's a good touch.
It is.
Like at one point, by the time that she's like almost dead, she has like on a like tea dress that's like a short skirt. But she starts with like a floor, like past the floor length dress on. It's crazy. There's another boss I was gonna mention. I'm trying to remember which one it was. Shoot. It's like a robot.
Always fight robots.
What was I gonna talk about?
You have to fight a dark version of yourself.
You do.
Which I think that maybe is the one that's like, is the copycat, but everything else is kind of not necessarily that. But yeah, I was like, oh, okay, this fight, okay.
Oh no, it wasn't a boss I was gonna talk about. We were talking about like how it leans on Symphony of the Night tropes. There is a character in it called OD. Who is a vampire. He runs the library.
Yes.
And there is a tunnel underneath his chair.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, guys, subtle.
It's very true.
I forgot what OD stands for, but his name is OD.
That's I think that's the dude, the guy who voiced Alucard voices.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That makes sense, honestly.
His name is Orlok Dracul. And he lends you out like little like books that give you buffs and everything.
He's like, return it. This is not a bookstore, it's a library.
I never returned his books. Eventually, if I went back to him, he's like, hey, you want to run another book? And I was like, heck yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, how
are
you supposed to return them? You beat the game.
Sorry, dude. They're all my books now.
Your castle goes away, so like how am I supposed to return the books? And then there's like a killer barber who is a friendly killer barber.
Yeah, he gives you haircuts.
He just wants to cut hair.
You find haircut books and it's like, oh, now I know how to do this. It's really good. There's a lot of good just like hidden bosses as well. Like there's a few that are just like, specifically kind of just like hard for the sake of being hard, because of course they are. And they're kind of sectioned off in their own little rooms. But there's one that is basically literally just a knockoff Belmont, because he basically has a whip and has all of the Castlevania sub weapons. Like he has holy water, he has the T boomerang, He has axes. Like, it is literally a Belmont you were fighting.
Is that the one that I fought, but I didn't realize who it was because I was so scared?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. He was hard.
Hmm.
The Carpenter was a really hard boss.
I don't think I ever beat the Carpenter just because like it was such like it's a very tight quarters fight.
It is, and also he summons like super demons.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's a close quarters fight. Plus he summons demons, and you're like, ah! I beat him, and I barely beat him because I didn't know that there were full heals in the game until the very end. So I was just using high potions to survive.
Yeah, I feel that.
Not good. Not good.
There's a very good section as well that you'll find where you find a portrait of Iga, and you take that, and it literally puts you into like an 8-bit version of the game.
Also, speaking of hard.
Yes. Like all these bosses are kind of like more meant for like when you're near the end of the game, specifically. But like that section's really cool because like it even gives you like 8-bit like shards that give you like 8-bit powers and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then like,
go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm surprised that I actually beat all these super bosses because like I'm usually not that person. I didn't realize that they were supposed to be hard bosses until like I had already beat them, and I was like, oh. But they were hard. They were really hard. There was also another one called Millionaire, who's just like a mimic chest, but he can also do like slots.
Yeah, it was weird.
It was really weird. And there's this one room that I think it's like Celeste. Did you get that one?
Sorry, you cut out there when you were saying it.
Oh, Celeste's room. Is
it the room where like there's a bunch of like music boxes
and the cat portrait, and then if you sit in the chair, there's a ghosty?
Yeah. I looked up to see exactly what that was, and when I was playing it, people had no idea what to do for that room.
When I was playing it, nobody knew what to do.
So like the consensus about it was either that there is a puzzle in there that no one has figured out yet, or it was just a backer room that they just made that way to make it seem like it was a puzzle room.
Yep, that's what I've read. Nobody's figured it out if there is an actual puzzle there.
Yeah.
But most,
because it definitely seems like there should be something there, given the way it's set up. But yeah, no one is really aware of it at the moment. So eventually, you fight a bunch of bosses. You get a lot of the castle unlocked. You fight Zangetsu again, and he gives you his sword. And he mentions that like you have to use the sword to cut the moon when you fight Jeeble, because if you could fight Jeeble basically at any time when you find him. If you fight him before you have that sword and do the thing, it basically just gives you like a bad ending, where you just see like Miriam and Johannes. They're like, "Hey, we beat Jeeble, but the castle's still there and everything still seems bad." Welp. So basically you have to do this thing in the Jeeble fight where you use the sword that Zangetsu gives you and cut the moon when it turns red, and that hits the person who has control over Jeeble and basically kind of frees him of being controlled.
But then he turns into like a weird crystallized goop.
Yeah.
So I assumed that he died. Like Johannes was just like chilling with him for a bit, and I'm like, maybe he can like come back, but then he wasn't there at the ending, so I'm like, okay, maybe he just died and nobody really did anything about it.
I think it's kind of like to say like the crystals took over him. Well,
because Johannes said that he would like look into trying to undo the process, but like that wasn't clarified that was a thing that he was able to do. So
right,
I guess he's just dead now.
Yep. So eventually, like after that, you chase the demon that was controlling Geeble named Grimmery. And you go through this portal that takes you to a different area where everything is very big. It reminded me of the one world in Super Mario Land 2.
Oh right.
Where everything is super big and you're tiny.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens here. Within here you find Alfred again. He gets mortally wounded and tells you that like the book's gone, and he basically was trying to use the book to basically destroy everything, make sure in a way that was good.
Turns out he was misunderstood.
He was very misunderstood.
He was not the villain all along.
Mm-hmm.
But he does tell you who was.
He does tell you who was. So you go through the giant area, which is kind of difficult because there's not a lot of like save areas or anything like that.
I don't think there's any save areas, is there?
There's one, I think.
One, okay. I know there was like a warp area, like
Yeah.
below it, but not in there.
It's very like kind of like out of the way essentially.
Yeah.
There's another boss in there you have to fight and everything, but eventually, you know.
Oh, that dumb money belly guy.
You told me like you had problems with it. And I was like, I beat that boss first try. I don't know.
But also,
Sorry.
I didn't have anything but high potions.
So did I.
Ah! I ended up putting on the Aegis armor so that I could jump and not hit the spikes.
I never hit the spikes either.
Well, because I kept trying to like chill out on top of its coin things.
Yeah, that's what I would do, and then he would just knock him down. I would just go bump, 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 and I just hit him with the water stream and just held that on.
Well, damn.
And then eventually he just died, and I was like, okay, that was a boss. Yep.
Well, apparently I'm just bad at the game.
No, you beat more bosses than I did. So yeah, you eventually go through all that area, and then eventually after that you'll get back. You'll find the final area, and that's where you take on who is the true villain.
The Ice Tomb. Wait, that's not the true villain. That's where you are.
That is true. You learn that Dominique stole the book.
Da-ba-bum.
And she was basically the big baddie the whole time.
Whoa, it's so funny if you go back to the house and go talk to Anne, who's now running the store. She's like, man, I wonder when that lady's coming back. I'm running the store for her. You think she's ever going to come back? I was like, oh, honey, she's the villain. She's bad.
She's gone for good.
Yeah, she sucks.
She basically is trying to use the book to summon Baal, the king of demons.
Da-ba-bum.
And you have to fight her and then fight Baal as the final boss.
Which also was one that I was like, I need heals.
Yeah, that was the one where I had to like kind of break down and be like, all right, I need to get these full heal potions because I am not these high potions are not cutting the mustard here. But yeah, it's a tough fight.
Super tough.
Especially because like you have to do the Dominique fight and then the Baal fight back to back.
Yep.
And it's two tough fights back to back. It is not easy, so you kind of need all those kind of healing items that you're able to get in order to help you out.
I kind of suspected her.
Yeah.
Because she kept showing up with Zangetsu, and I'm like, why are you here? Go away. And she seems like she was kind of like running the show for a bit there with him.
Mm-hmm.
But then she kept getting letters from him, like, Zangetsu says that if you go here, you can fly. And I'm like, what? Zangetsu, what are you talking about? Are you on drugs?
Yeah, that was the weird way that the game would be like, hey, go this way, you'll get this ability. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. So yeah, and then the castle disappears and everybody lives happily ever after except for Jeeble, who is apparently dead.
Poor Jeebs.
Oh, and Alfred. He's dead too. And I guess Dominique, she's also dead. And all the people in the village.
It's true. And you'll play through the final cutscene and there'll be like weird water sounds playing throughout it.
Yeah, both the audio on both of ours messed up at the end.
Yep. I don't know if that's like a widespread problem or not, but like it happened for you and it happened for me, and we were playing on two different consoles, so
it was really weird.
It was very weird. Like it just played throughout the entire cutscene, and then the credits, and it was not through the credits because the credits had stopped, but then like after the credits roll ended, it was like, and then it stopped.
Yeah, it was awful.
So it was very weird.
Oh, you know what I didn't like about this? That tower.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kept having to go up and down that tower and then like climb on the gears, and it was a nightmare. Hated that tower.
I had to do the same thing.
And then you had like the flippies, like when you invert it, and then it's like, oh cool, I'm at the bottom, and now I have to climb all the way to the top again. Yay! It was awful. I really hated that tower. A good touch though was that you fight twin dragons there because it is the twin dragon area.
It's true.
Wow.
Who could have guessed?
Who could have guessed? But after I fought him for the first time, I was like running back up the tower after getting the item,
Yeah,
and
I did the same thing. And it was like, well, this was nothing.
yep. But it was for the picture. You needed the thing to take the picture to get through the
Mm-hmm.
train station. But anyway, as I was walking up, I noticed that like there were blood-stained like dragon footprints up going up the tower.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, nice, that's a good touch. But they go away after you leave the area.
Yeah. I think like some things that like I got nitpicky about with this game were like I feel some of the UI and like the production elements of the UI felt super cheap. Specifically for like a $40 game, like it looked like the kind of stuff you would find in maybe like a $15 game in terms of just like how the text looks, how the menus look. Like a lot of just like looked real cheap and not the kind of quality you would expect from a game that is $40.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of a bummer because like I just think you should expect better from that if they're charging that kind of money for it specifically. I feel like there was something else and I don't remember.
While you're trying to remember, the music's real good.
Yes.
The music's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I had issues with like the skin textures on the Switch version. Like they just looked corpsey. It was very weird.
I don't think I had that on the PS4 version, or at least like the way I don't think it looked that bad.
Yeah. It also did have the cool thing that like when you put on accessories, it changes on the model.
Yeah, like there were some that it didn't per se, but like a lot of them you would get like representation on your model of like, oh, you put on this mask and now you're just wearing this mask.
It was mostly just like armor stuff that didn't show up. Like if you put on body
Right.
armor, it wouldn't show it, except for like one that was like a Valkyrie dress.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think like there was a different kind of dress. I don't remember what it was, but any kind of like hat or scarf or whatever, you could put it on and it would change what you look like, and that was fun.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's Bloodstained.
Yeah.
It is very much a game that if you like Metroidvanias, you are a fan of Symphony, then I like this is something you obviously would want to play.
I liked it despite the fact that it was frustrating at times for me because of all the crashes.
Totally. It breaks free of the crowdfunding kind of curse that has begotten a lot of the bigger games from that platform. So,
but again,
cool.
I think part of that is because, like you said, they were trying to not just like completely replicate the style of that. Like they made a Metroidvania, they made a Symphony of the Night, but they put some things that were like 2019-ish in there. It helped.
And I think as well, like, this coming out so much later after those games, like they were able to see just like, oh, those games kind of went wrong in some ways. How can we make sure our game doesn't go wrong in that way?
Yeah.
Which of course, like, like we said, this game isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, considering, like you talked about, the Switch version is still pretty messed up. But outside of that, for the most part, it doesn't really fall into the same categories that the other
it's
Kickstarter
one of the
games.
best Kickstarter nostalgia games.
Yeah, I think that is something you can easily say.
Yeah, I love there's just a portrait of him in there though. That's super funny.
Of course.
Why wouldn't you, right?
Oh boy. So yeah, that's Bloodstained. We're also going to take a look here since we're in July and see what's coming out in the back half of 2019 and just talk about some of the games that we are interested in and see what all is coming down the pipeline.
Trials of Cold Steel 3. Whee!
That is true. I don't know if it's on this list or not, but I guess it is. That's cool. So we're gonna start with July, which already we're a few weeks in.
We're in the midst of it.
We are in the midst of it. So a few things have already come out, like the expansion to Final Fantasy 14, the Stranger Things 3 game.
I should try that.
You should. There was a port of Clannad to the Switch, because of course. Dr. Mario World just came out today as we're recording this, and that game seems okay. But yeah, that's a bunch of things that have already come out. So next week onward is stuff that I think hasn't come out, or I guess next week onward. I guess it's still Friday. But yeah, Dragon Quest Builders 2 comes out this Friday, so it already come out by the time you're listening to this. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 comes out the following Friday on the 19th. That is a Switch exclusive. The next Friday after that is actually pretty packed. Fire Emblem Three Houses comes out on the Switch. The Kill la Kill fighting game comes out. And then Wolfenstein Youngblood comes out.
Well, I'm getting 2 of those games.
Yep. I didn't realize both of those games came out on the same day until like a few days ago. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
That takes us into August, where, of course, this means the video games are back with the release of John Madden's Football NFL 20.
Yay.
Other stuff coming out in August, the release of Metal Wolf Chaos, which I think is the first time that game has come out in the U.S. Life is Strange 2 Episode 4 comes out on the 22nd of August, which means I have until then to play Episode 3.
Whoops.
Still need to do that. The 27th sees Control, the new game from Remedy, the game that looks like PsyOps, but is made by the Max Payne, Alan Wake developers. Also, World of Warcraft Classic comes out that same day. If you want to just time travel back to 2005 and play WoW that way.
Man, Alan Wake was good.
Yeah, it was.
It was a really good game.
Yeah, it was. And Remedy got the rights back to it, so that's great.
Yay!
They can put that out elsewhere if they want to.
Good.
The 30th of August sees the release of Astral Chain, the Platinum Games joint for the Switch, the Blair Witch game.
Right. I forgot that existed.
And then also the Dark Pictures Man of Medan, which is the new game from the developers of Until Dawn. And it's basically a game in that style again. So I'm interested to see what that is. September starts off with the release of Catherine Fullbody.
I hope that they are correct. Like, I've seen a lot of reports that they have adjusted it for America, and I'm really hoping that that is the case.
Yeah, you can only hope. The 10th sees the release of Gears 5. Maybe,
which we still don't know a whole lot about.
Maybe by that point they'll tell you what that game is actually.
That'd be nice.
September 13th sees Borderlands 3, Daemon X Machina, NHL 20. There we go.
Whoa.
The real game's coming out.
Whoa.
September 17th, AI The Somnium Files comes out.
Yeah.
The new Uchikoshi game.
Super excited.
Yep. September 20th sees the Link's Awakening remake, and then also the Ni no Kuni 1 remaster, and then just re-release on Switch. The 24th sees a bunch of stuff comes out, like a bunch of old classic computer RPGs like Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale. There's a lot of those just coming out to modern consoles. That weird Contra game comes out that day.
Oh, weird.
This is also when Trails of Cold Steel 3 comes out.
Yeah. I know what I'm gonna be doing.
And then the 27th sees the release of Code Vein, which is the anime Dark Souls looking game. The Switch version of Dragon Quest 11, and then of course FIFA 20.
Of course.
October sees the latest Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon game come out on the 4th, and Breakpoint. I don't think that dog is in that game though, unfortunately. October 18th sees the release of, this just got announced literally this past weekend, Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth Complete Edition for PC and Switch, which combines both of those games together into one package, which seems like a very good deal for two very good games. I will yell about that a lot.
You will. Ow,
October.
ow, ow.
One of the cats is very upset by that.
It's Max. He's attacking my foot.
What a weirdo. October 25th sees Call of Duty Modern Warfare, not a re-release of the old game, but the new version of that game.
Great.
The remake of Medieval, and then The Outer Worlds, the new game from Obsidian, which is totally not a political charge game. Nope, no siree. Nope, totally not. And then on Halloween, Persona 5 Royal comes out in Japan, if you are interested in that. November, of course, like the latter half of this year on Wikipedia is not fully fledged out because November is like a few games and it's going to be probably exploding by the time we get close to there. But these are, confirmed release dates, at least on here. In November, they are putting out the Layton's Mystery Journal game on Switch as a complete edition on the 8th. Also on the 8th is Death Stranding.
We'll see.
We'll see. On the 13th, they're re-releasing 13, which I guess, makes sense they put that on the 13th. The weird cel-shaded first-person shooter from, like, the PS2. The 15th of November sees Pokemon Sword and Shield and also Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. On the 19th, the release of Shenmue 3. Speaking of Kickstarter-backed games.
No kidding.
And then on the 22nd, Doom Eternal.
I never thought I would be this excited for a Doom game. Oh my god, I'm so hyped though. I cannot wait to rip demons' arms off and beat the shit out of them with it. I need that right now. Maybe that's what I should do. Is just play some. I get off this and like rage.
It's not a bad idea. And then at some point in November, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020, which I will again say looks good.
Yeah, I would say, isn't that the one you want to play?
Yeah, I don't know why. December currently has Life is Strange 2 Episode 5, and then an enhanced version of Neverwinter Nights coming out on the 3rd. And that's basically it for that. There's some stuff that they have that is unscheduled, quote unquote. Let me see if there's anything notable in here that
when
we
does
talk about.
Life is Strange finish coming out?
Probably after the 5th episode.
Okay, so that's when I can buy the whole pack.
I would, probably December-ish would be when you would want to pick that up. Final Fantasy VIII will come out at some point this year.
This year?
On modern consoles.
Oh.
And then also Crystal Chronicles Remaster.
I'm so ready for 8. Crystal Chronicles is good too.
I never played it.
I think you'd like it.
Yeah, we should play that.
We should.
Luigi Mansion 3 is coming out. I think the game has a date. I don't remember.
I would assume October.
Wikipedia doesn't say one way or the other, but I'm pretty sure they announced a date for that game.
It's got to be October. That's when they do Luigi's Mansion.
The Mario Kart game for iOS.
Oh, I forgot about that.
That is going to be coming out sometime in Q3 apparently. Resident Evil 5 and 6 for the Switch, so you should definitely play 6 and not 5.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we will talk about that. The Pokemon Masters iOS game that's coming out also in Q3. The new Shantae game that might come out this year. I don't know. What else? I think they're also putting out Root Letter again. They're putting out the version that has the FMV stuff in it.
Yes.
Which I'm excited about. That seems real good.
Yes.
Some of this other stuff just doesn't have dates on it, so I don't know. Windjammers 2 maybe come out this year? Who knows? That'd be good. And yeah. There's probably a bunch of stuff we were missing just because, Wikipedia can be very bizarre when it comes to when things come out. I want to check a back source here just to see if there's anything else come out. Also, Google Stadia comes out, I think, in November as well. So that is technically a console launch. Although neither of us are really going to be picking that up.
Yeah, no.
Because we don't really have the infrastructure for that.
Mm-mm. I live in Alabama.
You do. You're
thus
not wrong.
don't have the infrastructure.
But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff coming out later this year, which is exciting.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot that I'm looking forward to, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I like when I get excited about things.
I like when I get excited about things. That's a good
I
way to look at it.
I do like when I get excited about things. It's fun.
So yeah, those are fun games to look forward to. We will probably talk about a few of those here and there when we get a chance. Over the course of the year,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. But that's gonna wrap this episode up then.
Yep.
Yep.
Um, so Bloodstained could be better, but it was pretty good. The rest of this year, yay! There's some stuff coming out. Um, also, we're gonna have to talk about Resident Evil 5 at some point.
I mean, we might have to talk about that next week.
We probably should talk about it next week because I have a lot to say. A lot.
We're probably gonna go through and play some of like the alternate modes. Just to
Oh, we should do that soon. You wanna do that tonight? You don't have to.
I just wanted to see what time it was. I mean, we could.
Okay, cool. We might could get there one.
Yeah. So yeah. We will definitely probably talk about that next week. But until then, if you'd like more from us, go to seasonalcheckup.com or sec.cool. It's where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Seasonal Checkup, which has a new episode out. And Jared and Al Watch cannot talk today, apparently. You can find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Ann Ladium, go to annladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/animecheckup. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA.
Mm-hmm.
So next week we will probably discuss Resident Evil 5, which also, hey, go to Crunchyroll and read my piece I did on early anime games, which I'm pretty proud of.
Y'all, it's so rad.
There's some weird stuff in there. Some really weird stuff. Like I think a lot of people are going to be more familiar with like Cliffhanger because that is a pretty infamous game in its own right, but like that 1980 Lupin the Third licensed arcade game is super strange. Those Japanese PC Gundam games are real weird. It's a whole just weird swath of stuff from the early portion of like the 80s. And it's interesting to see how game adaptations have come along since then, and how those games, potentially were influential to how we play games today.
It's a good piece, y'all. You should read it.
So we'll be back next week with some interesting thoughts on Resident Evil 5, most likely.
It should be fun.